Wow, I haven't touched drum brakes for at least 10 years, so let's hope they're not as rusty as what my skills are. But today, I'll be taking you through this video showing you how to strip, clean and or replace the rear drum brakes on any vehicle, but specific instance a Fiat 500. I'll guide you through the entire process, ensuring you have the right tools and techniques to get the job effectively and safely done. Let's get started. To start off with, we're going to have to jack up the car using the correct jacking points. If you're unsure of this, watch my video on how to jack up a car. I will link it in the top corner now. As always, safety comes first. Be sure to place jack stands under a solid structural part of the car to make sure you're secure and don't risk end up being in a dangerous situation. Now next up we want to remove the wheel nuts. I'm using my impact gun with a 17mm impact socket. Now just set aside the wheel to give ourselves room to work. Next up we need to remove the wheel alignment lugs. Now these are a 13mm socket. I'm just going to crack them off and loosen them off by hand. Set them to one side, you're going to need these again soon. Next up we're going to remove the drum itself. Now sometimes you can wiggle these free, but usually it takes a hammer or a screwdriver just to pry them off. I find it better just to get a lump hammer or a nice heavy hammer and just tap away around the edges. As you can see here, the drum's starting to release, and just tap away at the bottom and hopefully the drum will just come off nice and clean, which it has done here. Now, as you can see, we've got a decent amount of meat on the actual contact area of the shoes themselves. So I don't think in this instance we're going to have to replace the shoes, but we'll see. We'll strip them down, give them a good clean and see what we've got to play with. Before we start stripping anything, I'm just going to get some brake clean and give everything a good clean down. On this particular car, we do need to remove the hub. So first off, we need to remove the hubcap. So we're just going to give that a tap with a flat-bladed screwdriver. Just moving it round and round. You'll see it starts to pop out, very much like we did with the hammer on the actual drum itself. And the hubcap should pop off nice and easy. This should then reveal the axle retaining bolt. So what we're going to do is, I think this one is a 32mm to remove this. So again, out comes the impact gun. Now these usually tighten to anywhere between 100 to 200 foot-pounds of torque. So you're going to need something with a bit of oomph to get this off. Now when you release this hub, just be very careful because there are bearings inside. You don't want them to pop out and fall all over the floor. Just pop your fingers in like I am here, just retain the bearing and pull the hub cleanly off. Now let's just take a couple of minutes to look at how these things actually work. So first up, we've got the brake drum. That's the bit that we've already removed. That's the bit that the brake shoes push out against to give you actual braking. Then we have the wheel cylinder. This contains the pistons that push the brake shoes outward against the drum. When you press the brake pedal, it's powered by hydraulic brake fluid. Then we have the brake shoes. These are the curved friction surfaces that press against the inside of the drum to create stopping power. They're held in place by a set of springs. We have our automatic adjuster. This keeps the brakes positioned properly over time as they wear down, ensuring consistent performance. This makes sure that they are aligned against the drum as they should be. We have the return springs. These pull the brake shoes back into their resting position when you release the brake pedal. So to strip the brakes down, the first thing I'm going to do is remove this return spring at the bottom. Now with a needle nose pair of pliers, this should come out quite easily. There we go. To make our life easy, we're going to remove the whole assembly. So these retaining clips here, just get a screwdriver and push them down and out, and that will push them off the retaining lugs. Do the same both sides, removing the lug out of the back plate. Just set them to one side because they're important. Once the second clip is off, we can then remove the entire mechanism. And if you twist it as you pull it off, we can actually remove that top retaining spring really easily. There we go. Just watch the adjuster because that will more than likely fall out. If I look at the back here, we can then just remove that spring now quite easily. Now we need to give the entire hub plate a good spray down, get any grease, dust, anything that's in the way out of the way. And then we're going to look, and there's three main areas that we need to grease before we put this all back together. Now I'm using copper spray grease. You can use lithium grease if you want to, but the three areas are there, marked on both sides. So I'm just going to give that a good squirt down now. And then we have the adjuster. And while we've got it apart, let's take the opportunity just to strip it down. So we're going to give it a good spray off, and then we're going to unscrew and wind the adjuster right the way out, and then spray some brake cleaner into the hole in which the adjuster screws into. Just make sure it's completely cleared out, and then we'll assemble it back together. Now while we're here, we just want to check the piston. So if you get your fingers, just make sure the piston returns once you push it in, and just check for any obvious leaks around the rubber seals. This one's completely fine. Let's give it another clean down, being careful not to wipe that grease off. Now we can start putting everything back together. Now don't do this bit. Don't put the shoes the wrong way around. You'll see here you can actually put them around. Look at the straining on that cable. You always fit it the way round that the cable's leading to. So in this case, it's on the other side here. It just tucks in that retainer at the bottom. And we'll do the reverse of what we did to take it apart. So we're going to put the fixing clips in with the lugs and start to reassemble. So you'll see here I'm refitting the lug, but that will have to come back out in a minute. Just to have a play with it. It depends, each car's different. Depends how tight the springs are. Sometimes you have to put the lugs on first, sometimes it's the springs on first. Whichever's easiest for you, just have a play with it. As long as it all goes back together the right way, then job's a good one. And again, always make sure you align these shoes with the cylinder at the top. So once you pop it in, before you put the clip on, just make sure the top is in against the cylinder. And that's the second one secured. Now you will have noticed here that I've taken the right hand side off and I've attached a return spring already because that was easier. Now I'm just sliding the adjuster into place, and we'll bring the shoe back down, make sure it's all aligned up, and refit that retaining clip. Notice here that the top seal on the pistons come off, so I'm just going to make sure that's reseated. We don't want any dust to get in there and clog the actual piston up itself. Now for the lower return spring. This is by far the easiest of the two to refit. Again, just needle nose pliers, hook the one side in, and then pull it across. And now we've got the brake assembly back together. That's the hard bit over. Now we're just going to make sure everything lines up, and we're going to refit the wheel hub and the bearings and everything back that we took off. Again, we're going to use the same method as before, just using your thumbs to hold them bearings in place. And we're just going to gently push the hub on as it come off. And then we're going to put the retaining nut back on, and I'm going to tighten that up with the impact as tight as I can. Now, my battery's a little bit low on this, so I think it'll get around about 150 foot-pounds, which is plenty for this. Obviously, it's the first time you've done it, you're going to want to use a torque wrench just to double check your settings. Now, when we refit the drum, we want there to be some resistance. It's going to be difficult to get this back on against the actual shoes themselves. This went on way too easy, and I can pull it off by hand. It's way too loose. So what we're going to do is adjust the adjustment screw by flicking it up. Obviously, we've left it quite wound in, so we've got quite a way to go, but we'll adjust that right up. Then next time we refit the drum, we want it to be nice and tight, and when we turn it against the shoes themselves, we should have a little bit of resistance. Right, when we're getting the drum back on, you want it to be tight. You want it to have a little bit of resistance against the contact area within the actual shoes themselves. Now, you need to get it there or thereabouts. These will auto-adjust. They tend to adjust when you're in reverse and you're braking. Strange, I know, but that's the way they all work. So once that's done, they will adjust themselves up and become nice and tight as you drive the car. Just for belt and braces, I'm going to retighten that centre hub. That's as tight as it's going to go. And then we're going to refit the hubcap. Again, just line it up and tap it home with a hammer. And that should be job done, guys. So congratulations, you've maintained and gave life to your rear brakes for a number of years yet to come. Please check out my other videos. If that was helpful, please like and subscribe. Also check out my channel memberships. I'll catch you guys in the next one.